Everybody's got food memories. They evoke such powerful emotions in us. For me, it was not a cookie like the Frenchman, Marcel Proust. For me, it might have been pizza, because I know that the very first place I was taken to eat, a restaurant, was a pizza place in the town I was born in. We go back there every year. The pizza place has gotten a lot bigger, but my love of pizza remains huge. Today, I'm going to be doing one inspired by our diverse Latin community here in Florida, and it's going to have some ingredients you might not have had on a pizza before. I certainly didn't have it in that little spot in Illinois when I was a kid. It's all about evolving and doing things because you're excited by them. I'm excited by the infinite opportunities that you have in pizza. Before you get started, it's essential to preheat your oven and preheat the stone that you have in the oven. If you don't have one, just go to a hardware store and get one. Just tell them you want to make pizza, they'll know what to do. And then here in my pizza oven, I've got a rotating stone. So I'm just going to turn that on so I won't have to like turn it with the peel, which is kind of nice. You know, dough is not really that hard. I think people kind of wig out over the idea of yeast and making dough when they think they can't do it. I've never been a bread baker. I'm excited by being able to do something as simple as this. And you sure could go to the store and pick up dough that's been made, and maybe even have a pizza place in town where you could do something like that. But this is a maybe 5-ingredient dough recipe that I got online. And I've never made this specific dough until yesterday. No, 2 days ago, because I wanted to hydrate. And I'm using this metal pie pan so I don't get flour all over the cutting board. And we'll see how that goes. I'm almost always getting flour all over myself. But I liked the idea that it kind of spins too. And if you get a hole like that, just pinch it back together. And continue to go out. I got a big hole, but I'm gonna just keep fixing that hole. Isn't there a Beatles song that goes like that? And then just go ahead and use the side of your hand to give yourself a nice ridge. Pizzas come in all sizes. I think some people get hung up on the idea of wanting a Whopper 14-inch pizza, 16-inch pizza, but I like them in the 10 to 12-inch size. So because I really want to serve about 3 or 4 different kinds of pizzas to my friends. So this is what this one's going to be. You'll see when you're looking up the doughs how many ounces or how many grams you want the dough to be. And invariably, you'll make enough for 2 pizzas, and that's cool because you can make 2 different pizzas if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and build it on my peel so that it's going to slide into the oven without all these ingredients being on top of it. From here, I really want it already on this thing. Just a little bit of cornmeal, which will act like a nice way of sliding the dough into the pizza oven. So let's just go ahead and mosey this over here. Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest cooking lessons you'll ever see is when Julia Child drops that chicken on the floor. That was a real life moment. Seriously talented, dedicated person that Julia was her whole life, but she didn't let that destroy her focus or her concentration. So some people call them mistakes. I'm just going to call them dinner. In this case, it's going to be dinner because I'm going to fix it. See, you can't see a hole anymore, neither can I. All right, so this is a homemade tomato sauce, but there's plenty of jarred ragouts, tomato sauces, pizza sauces that you can go with. You don't want to get too wet, too over the edge. So I'm going right up to the edge. You just use the bottom of the spoon to bring the pizza sauce out. You want to see a little bit of that dough coming through. You don't want a soup on the dough. Now, kind of a sequence here. I'm going to go ahead and put some shredded mozz. This is my Latin pizza, so you could use a cow's milk cheese from South America. That'd be cool. Now this is where it gets a little bit more meaty here, meat lovers pizza, as I've got roast pork. And what I do is I go to this little Latin grocery store in the neighborhood. Love this place. Besides having the grocery store, they got a cafeteria there. And the place is lined up with workers who storm in there at 11:30 in the morning and keep coming till 2 o'clock in the afternoon and getting all kinds of beautifully made, hearty dishes. And I am always standing in that line. I'm make sure I grab a number so that I can get served before too long. And I buy roast pork. And here, this is chicharrones. So this is the cracklings, if you will. And they serve them, they sell them to you in these big hunks like this. There's no other word for it. Now this is cooked. It doesn't look cooked like bacon is cooked, but I'm also going to be putting it into a 500 to 600 degree pizza oven here in a minute to crisp it up. So put that on there as much as you like. I like a little element of heat. This is a Chipotle mixture, and it's really concentrated, sort of like tomato paste concentrated. So I'm just going to put like a dot in what will become every wedge of the pie. Lastly, got some onion, which I've just dressed in a little bit of olive oil. If you don't like onion, don't put onion on it. It's your pizza. And then lastly here, some of the cotija cheese, kind of like a Latin Parmesan. Not aged as long, but you can see how it looks pretty. And you also might see these chilies over here. I actually don't put them onto the pizza. I eat a bite of these chilies as I'm taking bites of pizza. Sort of like bite of pizza, bite of chili. It's nice. Now let's just slide this guy in. You can turn off the oven if you prefer while that's going. Not turn off the oven, but turn off the rotation and let it rip. And then turn that back on. And then in about 5 minutes, we're gonna have pizza. Sometimes people ask me, do I need to be a good eater to be a good cook? Do I need to love a lot of different foods? Not necessarily. Not necessarily like encyclopedic. I mean, there are writers that are astonishing writers that work with an economy of words. But I do think that you need to love food deeply, heroically. Not every kind of food, but you need to love food. There is a writer who I adore. Her name is Annie Dillard. And when she was asked about being a great writer, she said somewhat sagely, epigrammatically, I think to be a great writer, it's important that you fall in love with making sentences. How succinct is that? So yes, you can be a very, very good cook and like a fairly modest range of foods. Not like, you must love them. Oh yes. Oh, it's just bubbling with joy. So let's get it. All right. Let's bring that over to the board. Let it sit. You can always set up a rack if you want, like a cookie cooling rack for a pizza, which some people like to do because the steam situation is not a problem. But if you don't have one, just move it over after a moment so that that steam goes there and doesn't make your dough soggy at all. Let it sit here for, let's say, 60 seconds. Count to a minute. Set a timer. But the reason you're doing that is you're letting it rest. You're letting the ingredients settle in. Remember, it's been in a 500, 600 degree oven. It's almost like undulating. We can't quite see it, but it is, because it's got the tomato sauce just almost boiling in there. And then after that time, cheese is going to melt, settle in, and then when you go to cut it, it's not going to come apart on your cutter or over in your board. It's going to stay on top of the slices, the wedges of pizza. That's the goal. Here comes the moment where we cut the pizza. You can use one of these like I've used at home for a lifetime, or you can use a rocker cutter like one of these. Up to you entirely. But one thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the cut that they did at this pizza place where I grew up, Bill's Pizza, Diamond Lake, Mundelein, Illinois, on the hyphen of those two towns. And that's called a party cut pizza. And that simply means you're going to cut it into squares, not wedges. So whichever pizza cutter you have, you use, press down firmly, cut through that dough, put your chest into it, get a good chest workout. There we go. Another one. Rock it back, forth, back, forth. Maybe give it a little half a spin here. And you make it, take a look. Do you want a slightly larger piece, slightly smaller piece? Let's just go right down the middle. So like I say, you know, I like to do a party in the backyard with my pizza oven and have a whole bunch of different ingredients out, and almost like people going to a place and saying, well, I want that topping and I want that topping and I want that topping. I want to give them like 12 different choices. This particular pie is my Latin pie, but if for some reason somebody said, hey, you got any black beans in the house? I might say I could do that. Or maybe some kind of sour crema or something like that. Really, why not? But I'm dedicating this particular pie to my friends out in Bill's Pizza back home, who really made it for me when we finished up book tour in '88, and surprised me when I got to the parking lot and looked up and they had a sign out there, you know, advertising their place. It usually would say to Bill's Pizza, whatever price. That night it said, Bill's Pizza welcomes Chef Norman Van Aken. Highlight moment of life, I gotta tell you. So let's have some pizza and return to our roots. Pizza and pickled Spanish peppers. Well, there's a match made somewhere, maybe in heaven. This is so good because you have the breadiness and the meatiness of the pork and the tomato sauce and all of that kind of like loving power. But with the chilies, these are pickled, you have that acidity. And I am a person who adores that back and forth between acidity and all the other flavors. Gotta give that pizza a good 30 seconds first. And then this. That's multi-dimensional flavor. So many people ask what, and they don't ask why. To really get into it, really get to the root of the answers to so many things, the proper question isn't so much what as it is why. Yet so much of the education that's foisted upon us is a collection of what. What's the answer to this, and what's the answer to that? As opposed to, why did humanity go down this particular road? And why do we cook the way we cook? Oh my gosh, Sheila, the kitchen? Are you gonna make me cook?
Not today. That was the last time you were here.
I heard a rumor that I'd like you to fill me in on. I was told that this kitchen was where the original key lime pie was invented. Is that true?
That's the rumor. And for many years, it was always discussed that Aunt Sally was believed to be the originator of the key lime pie. Gail Borden,
Right.
he patents sweetened condensed milk in 1856. So that's when we started looking, from 1856. Anybody could be associated,
How it
and
could
she's
be.
the only one.
I mean, just thinking about the span of time, 1856.
1856 is when sweetened condensed milk comes, and we know we have actual manifest that the Curry and Sons took delivery of sweetened condensed milk, and they were stocking all of the boats that were going out. So they, of course, had sweetened condensed milk in their homes.
And the sailors that would be on those boats, what would be the primary way that they would consume sweetened condensed milk?
In their coffee.
So they didn't worry about sugar.
So then, they're taking bread out, bread's getting stale, they're putting sweetened condensed milk on their bread to soften it up, and maybe squeeze some key limes on it because you didn't want to get scurvy when you were out there sponging and stuff. The key lime cooks the sweetened condensed milk that they've thrown some maybe turtle eggs in with it.
Wow.
It could be the origins of what is the pie, because they were eating bird egg. They're out at sea for a long time. So
You got to make do.
got to make do, and that's the mother of invention. That's key lime pie.
It's mind blowing. When we walked in here yesterday, and I'd been here before, I've done events here before, as you know, but General Manager George was speaking to me and saying, as we walked in here, yeah, this is where key lime pie was invented. And I'm like, how did I never know that? How did I never hear that before? But it just adds, it's one of those little Key West stories that makes this place ring with the magic that Key West has.
Magic is the word.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, why would you fuse together something culinarily that wasn't known to join with the other thing before that? And the simple and honest answer is it tastes good. That's the why. I was in this place of mixed cultures. I mean, really, principally, why I cook the way I cook, that's the question that I asked myself when I came up with fusion. And I realized that I was cooking, why I was cooking that way was I was living here in this place in Key West, and it was the convergence of divergent cultures that I was tasting in this little town. Amazing diversity in this little town. And I come from a different place altogether, and so no grandmother was beating me on the head saying, you can't do that, and you can't do that. If they did, I'd probably say, why not? Because that's my nature. But in tasting, let's say, a Cuban thing like a mojo, classic Cuban sauce marinade called mojo. Looks like it's mojo if you see it in spelling, but it's pronounced mojo. And I was making a classic Sebillon sauce, kind of a cousin to a hollandaise sauce. And I went, what if I put them together? What if I made a mojo Sebillon? And my guests, while they were a little bit kind of quizzical when they read these menu items, they responded in the way that told me I was on the right track, which was they were happy. And it wasn't to be inventive, and it wasn't to be like, look at me. It was that I just knew that between the taste and the texture, why became why not. And so I began to feel that this was my direction. And being here in Key West, I had a natural culinary laboratory, as the great writer Sokolov talked about in his magnificent work, Why We Eat What We Eat.